I did warn you in the title. This is definitely not a list of respectable 70s horror classics. Here we have satanic hippies, young actors trapped in a seaside theater with a very bad history, a grown man kept in a crib, and several more films with no real interest in good taste. So if that sounds like your side of the genre, let's get into it. I Drink Your Blood takes place in a small backwoods town called Valley Hills, where a group of satanic hippies arrives. After the group attacks a local woman, her younger brother decides to solve the problem in the most deranged way available. He comes across a rabid dog, draws some blood from it, injects it into meat pies, and sells them to the hippies. So now we have satanic hippies with rabies, and the film absolutely knows how to live up to that. And if you were hoping for subtle 1970s social commentary, this is not where you will find it. By the way, it was originally paired on a double bill with I Eat Your Skin. That one is not nearly as good or as entertaining, but the title combo is almost perfect. Pete Walker's The Flesh and Blood Show starts like a British murder mystery, but very quickly remembers that taking its clothes off is part of the job. And just to be clear, that is not a complaint. Several young actors are hired for a new stage production and sent to rehearse at the Old Dome Theater, a closed-down venue on the pier in the sleepy seaside town of Eastcliff. It has been shut for 25 years, which already makes the job feel suspicious. They move into the theater, begin rehearsals under director Mike Archer, and then one of the girls disappears. Mike thinks he has found her body and severed head, but when the police arrive, it turns out to be only a mannequin. Not exactly reassuring, because soon the rest of the cast are being stalked and killed, and whatever is happening seems tied to the tragedy that closed the theater back in 1944. For a film with a title like The Flesh and Blood Show, the funny thing is that it is much heavier on the flesh than the blood. The murders are not especially graphic, and many of them happen off-screen, but somehow that works for it. It also has a lot of pieces that would later become standard slasher material, but it does not yet feel like it is copying a formula. So yes, highly recommend. And since we are already with Pete Walker, let's mention one more of his films. House of Whipcord follows Anne-Marie, a French model working in London. After a public topless photo shoot, she ends up in court, but only receives a small fine. For most people, that would be the end of it. In this movie, it makes her a target. At a party, she meets a handsome man named Mark E. Desaad, which is not exactly a comforting name in a movie like this. He invites her away for the weekend to his mother's house. Once they arrive, Anne-Marie is locked in a cell. The house turns out to be a private prison, created to punish women who supposedly escaped real justice. Their crimes are minor, but the punishment is extreme. To its credit, for a cheap sexploitation film clearly poking at British censorship and moral panic, House of Whipcord is a real surprise. It is disturbing, the villains work, and Sheila Keith is excellent. Satan's Cheerleaders is one of those titles where the movie almost does not need to be good. At some point, you either want to watch a film called Satan's Cheerleaders, or you are probably a healthier person than I am. The story follows a group of cheerleaders who get targeted by a witch and a satanic cult. The plan, naturally, involves a virgin sacrifice. I should say right away, the movie is not quite as filthy as the title makes it sound. Instead of becoming truly nasty, Satan's Cheerleaders stays in this cheap horror comedy zone where the danger is real enough for the plot, but silly enough that you never fully take it seriously. And I almost forgot, John Carradine also shows up as a local bum. Promoted as one of the most bizarre films to come out of 1970s Hollywood, The Baby lives up to the claim. The story begins with a social worker visiting the Wadsworth family, a domineering mother, her 2 daughters, and baby. a grown man forced to live like an infant. He sleeps in a crib, wears diapers, crawls on the floor, and is kept under the women's total control. From there, the film turns into a very uncomfortable tug-of-war between the social worker and the family. She believes Baby's responses suggest he is capable of much more than being treated like an infant, while the Wadsworths have no intention of letting him grow up. Director Ted Post, better known for Magnum Force, also released in 1973, made a much smaller film here, but not one that is easy to forget. The Centerfold Girls basically started with a questionnaire sent to drive-in operators. According to director John Pizer, they were asked whether they would book a movie that mixed nudity with horror. The answer was yes. So they made one. The plot follows a psychotic killer, played by Andrew Prine, who targets women after they pose nude for men's magazines. But instead of one straight storyline, the Centerfold Girls is split into 3 separate sections, almost like a little proto-slasher anthology. It is exploitative, no question, but it is also meaner, smarter, and better built than the premise suggests. With private parts, we check into a cheap hotel, although hotel almost sounds too normal for what is going on here. The film begins with Cheryl, who comes to stay with her Aunt Martha after a fight with her roommate. At first, Martha seems warm and kind enough, but her strange behavior and obsession with death quickly leave Cheryl on edge, and the other residents do not exactly help. After meeting them, Cheryl starts to suspect that her aunt is hiding something much darker. It is not really a full-blown gore movie, but the strange characters and the mystery around Martha's hotel keep it creepy in a quieter way. Lucille Benson is especially good as Martha because she manages to seem calm and reassuring while somehow making everything feel worse. The film also touches on voyeurism, fetishism, and ideas around gender identity in ways that were taboo for the early 70s. The ending may not work for everyone, but the mystery is paced well enough to keep the whole thing moving until the end. There were enough 70s vampire films to choose from for this video, believe me. But if I was going to include just one, The Vampire Lovers felt like the cleanest way to do it. Ingrid Pitt plays Carmilla as a seductive predator who quietly works her way into an affluent household so she can get close to Emma, played by Madeline Smith. From there, it is basically seduction and feeding, with Carmilla circling Emma like a Black Panther and the film leaning hard into innuendo and thinly veiled imagery. Hammer is not pretending otherwise. There is a famous nude bathtub scene that feels like it came from a naughty postcard, and even the vampire attacks have a less polite style than the usual neck-bite routine. It is also worth saying, the film's attitude toward lesbianism and bisexuality is very much of its time, and it can feel antiquated now. But as a piece of Hammer Gothic with a sexually charged story and solid performances, it makes a good case that vampire movies did not need to revolve around Dracula forever. And if you want to keep going after this one, it spawned 2 semi-sequels, Lust for a Vampire and Twins of Evil.